I'm so happy to be starting this incredible festival with Rebbetzin Yehudis Golshevsky. She's director of Shifti, an international women's Torah center based in Yerushalayim. And Rebbetzin Golshevsky, she's been a well-known Torah educator in Jerusalem and abroad for nearly 30 years with students from all over the world. She's a published author, editor, translator, but teaching Torah is her first love. You can learn more by going to shifti.org.il. I'll put the link here so you can learn more about her incredible work. And she's going to be speaking to us about the topic of Gevurah within Gevurah, back from the dead, and focusing on Perek 30, Perek Lamed, chapter 30. So if you could take your Sefer out and you'll be able to follow along with her. As we're in the time of Sefirah, we're in the week of Gevurah. So without further ado, I give you Rebbetzin Golshevsky. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. Orly, I love your words, and I love whenever it's happened before that I've participated, and every time I hear you, I'm very inspired by your own enthusiasm and your own love of the Tehillim and your desire to share it and be mizakah. So it's really Baruch Hashem. Thank you.
It's a mutual feeling. Thank you.
So when I was asked to participate, it was very open. What perek do you want to do? And the perek that first came to my mind, even though I'm saying Tehillim my whole life and learning Tehillim and teaching it, but I immediately hit upon Perek Lamed, the 30th chapter. I think it has to do, how it is with Tehillim very often is that we can have different periods in our lives where we connect very deeply to a particular perek. Because of events that are going on in our lives or different things that strike us or resonate for us. And sometimes we sort of get stuck with, where we hit on a certain perek where we feel very connected. So Perek Lamed was calling out to me very much. And I was trying to think about why that was. And the truth is, even though we called this session Gevurah Shebegevurah, it's not Gevurah Shebegevurah. Today was Tifer Shebegevurah. And tonight, I already counted Sfiras, so tonight is Netzach Shebegevurah, where, between Chutz La'aretz and Eretz Yisrael, so whether today is your 10th day or whether it's already the 11th day, whether you're in Australia maybe and it's already tomorrow, so wherever everybody is, we're sort of between 10 and 11, right? Wherever we are. We should be somewhere between 10 and 11. And so even though when I sent in the blurb of Gevurah Shebegevurah, I was thinking, I don't know why, for some reason I was thinking about Shabbos. But it all is part of a theme. Now, how does it integrate together with Perek Lamed? First of all, the 30th chapter is a chapter with which everybody should have a lot of familiarity because it's part of the tefillah every day, right? It's an introductory additional perek to Psukei de Zimra, and so it's a preliminary in a certain sense, but it's also, there are special times during the year when we have it additional, it's like it's a tosefet, it's an addition that in many communities we sing, especially during Hanukkah. We either sing it, we say it. So we have, very deep relationship with this Perek Lamed. Now, Perek Lamed on the surface, right, is Mizmor Shel Chanukat Habayit LeDavid. So it's about the inauguration of a house. And even though David HaMelech did not live to see the Beit HaMikdash built, he devoted his life to, the picture behind me, my Zoom background is Kever David. So, and that Chassid was there saying Tehillim behind me, he's like that Yerushalmi guy, he never ever leaves. He's so devoted to the Tehillim, he never goes anywhere. So but why is it my Zoom background? I usually use it when I'm teaching because it's one of the places here in Yerushalayim where I feel very much at home and I love to be there. So it makes me feel comfortable and good to have it, sitting in the background. Even if I'm not there, I'm sort of there. Now, David HaMelech did not live to see the Beit HaMikdash built, although he spent a good part of his life preparing the foundations literally and figuratively for the construction of the Beit HaMikdash by amassing the wealth that was necessary, by securing the place of the Beit HaMikdash where it would be built in the future, and literally by organizing its yesodot, because underneath the Har HaBayit, so there is a networked, special, halachically, mandated series of interconnected spaces in order to eliminate the possibility under the Har HaBayit of what's called tumat tehom. And that means that there should never be, on Har HaBayit, there should never be any possibility of the impurity that comes from a dead body having somehow gotten into the waterways or the spaces in the underground chambers that are beneath, like that honeycomb of spaces, because the limestone upon which Yerushalayim is built, it erodes, and so in all those spaces is an incredible amount of water. If anybody's been down into the tunnels, in the tunnel tours that are beneath the Har HaBayit, so you get a sense. Now beneath, lower down, David HaMelech constructed al pi halacha. He made sure that the underpinnings of Har HaBayit would prevent in the future building of the Beit HaMikdash the possibility of tumat tehom, that there should be any rising of tum'ah that comes from the capturing of a dead body in the space beneath the Har HaBayit that shouldn't affect the Beit HaMikdash above, because tum'ah ascends into all of the airspace above it if it's not been contained in a very specific halachic manner. And so he laid down the foundations for the Beit HaMikdash, literally and figuratively, literally through the construction, and figuratively through securing the space and making sure that the funds were available for Shmuel Shlomo Melech, that the work could continue. And he, according to Rashi, so he wrote this perek. This is a gift in Ruach HaKodesh, that this song should be sung by the Leviim at the time of the actual inauguration of the Beit HaMikdash. And that's true. But we know, as the Radak teaches us, every perek of Tehillim is to be understood on many levels simultaneously. So there's David HaMelech's own personal experience that's expressed in the perek. There's his own Ruach HaKodesh that he experienced about the future of the Jewish people, some future event. There's the personal way in which every Jewish soul experiences that perek on the personal level, and meaning, and all the enemies are our internal enemies, and all the obstacles are our internal obstacles and our external obstacles. And then we have the way in which it affects Knesset Yisrael, the collective soul of the Jewish people, which is the totality of the Jewish people for the future and for the present. So there are four basic levels in which every perek of Tehillim has its truth, has that truth. And so we're going to look really, Mizmor Shir Chanukat HaBayit, we're going to focus not so much on Rashi, but more on the Malbim. The Malbim's approach is, when he speaks about the Chanukat HaBayit LeDavid, he says that this perek was expressed by David HaMelech not only with Ruach HaKodesh about the future inauguration of the temple, but he was talking about Chanukas HaBayit LeDavid, about the house of David, the body. David HaMelech had gone through a terrible illness, and in the aftermath of his illness, HaKadosh Baruch Hu saved him from death, because he was on the verge of death, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu saved him. We're going to walk through the perek and go through the psukim so we can sort of see how the story unfolded for David. And so when he speaks about the inauguration of his house, he means the restoration of his own body back to health so that he could serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Mizmor Shir Chanukat HaBayit LeDavid. So we're going following the approach of the Malbim, that this is a song of praise upon the inauguration, the restoration of David HaMelech's his body back into health. One second, here I have to open the psukim. Aromimcha Hashem ki dilitani v'lo simachta oivai li. I will exalt you, Hashem, because you have dilitani. Now, dilitani has a double meaning to it, because dalut in Hebrew means you've impoverished me, right? Dalut means poverty. At the same time, dilitani, like a dili, is a bucket, so it means you've drawn me up. Lidlot in Hebrew means to draw something up. So it has this dual implication, which is really, here is, tied in with Sphira. Tifer shebegvura, netzach shebegvura. What's expressed in the perek, in this chapter, is very much this dual process of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, like it says, in Chaf Bet, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he puts us, not in Chaf Bet, sorry, in Nun Aleph. HaKadosh Baruch Hu pushes us down to the lowest place, right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and then he says, Shuvu b'nei Adam, he puts us down to the low place, and this is the Gevurah, right? The Gevurah of this week is that it's part of the Anhaga, is a necessary and ultimately positive aspect of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's conduct of our lives and of his world, that things are difficult sometimes. and it's unavoidable. We cannot escape it. And nevertheless, there is Tiferes Shebegvura. There is Netzach Shebegvura. In these things that are very difficult, there is glory and beauty and splendor that is waiting to be revealed. There is Netzach, that's the Tiferes, that's the beauty that is waiting to be revealed from within the place of the Gevurah. There is Netzach, there is victory, endurance, and also Netzach is from the language of Nisuach. There is language that is waiting to emerge from us, language of prayer and language of praise that is waiting to emerge from us. That's Netzach in the sense of Nisuach. Nisuach, like a nusachat tefillah, like pouring out, like yayin, nesach. All of these words, netzach, nesach, nisuach, they all relate to each other. So all of this language that's waiting to be expressed from us, that emerges from the place of the gevurah, from the experience that seems to us at the moment is harsh. And we experience it as being harsh. Nevertheless, there's both tiferes and netzach that's waiting to emerge from that experience of gevurah. So that's why I felt, that here, Lamed, what better expresses this to us than David HaMelech telling us, HaShem ki, because you pushed me down, you took something from me, Hashem. In this case, it was David HaMelech himself. Dilitani, you also drew me back out, and I exalt you. Lo simachto eveli. And my enemies, they didn't get a chance to rejoice over me, because David HaMelech did have many enemies, unfortunately. And they were waiting for him to die. The Medrash says that David HaMelech, he had enemies who passed by his window. And they would go beneath his window and they would mock him. And they would call out, they would catcall, and they would say, David HaMelech has taken another man's wife. They would abuse him. Aside from all of the obstacles he overcame and all of his many challenges through the period of Shaul and until his malchut was established, but even afterwards, and he has spent 70 years with a very difficult life, all of the suffering that he went through with his children, all of his physical sufferings, and nevertheless, Hashem, you didn't allow them to rejoice over me. You saved me from them. Hashem Elokai shivati elecha v'tirpaeni. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I cried out to you. Shava'ah is not tzaka, it's not zaka. It's all, we have many different languages of calling from the deep place of need out to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yonah the Navi, when he said mibeten, when he was in the belly of the daga, he said mibeten sheol shivati. I cried out, I screamed out from the body, from the belly of Gehenna. Means from the deepest place. And Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, he said, "Va'ikar hu mibeten shol shivati." It's that a person comes to the place of where the thing is the hardest for them. That from there we cry out to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Rabbi Nachman says this is the be-all and end-all of what it means to be human and why we're here in the world. So it's shivati elecha v'tirpaeni. I cried out to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You healed me. Now, part of that is Hashem ha'elisam and shal nafshi. We're going to see that part of the perek is David HaMelech having to also admit to the fact that he might have made the mistake at a certain point of thinking that physical hishtadlut was going to save him because he was going through a physical ailment. But in the end, he saw very clearly that it was only his tefillah that saved him. So when he says, Shivate elevach tipaeni, it means I attribute, and now that I've recovered, I can attribute fully my recovery only to the prayer and the fact that you answered my prayer. Hashem, heliti min shol nafshi, you took my life out of the grave. Now, Sheol, the language of Sheol also means Gehenna. So it's also the experience, the painful experience of being ill in this world, but it's more than that, because David HaMelech, through his illness, came to an awareness, like the Malbim says, that it wasn't his physical illness was a product of his spiritual ailment. He recognized that he had something that he had to do teshuvah for. And when he identified what it is he had to do teshuvah for, then it was possible for his prayers to be answered. So when he says, Hashem heliti min shol nafshi, it doesn't only mean my life, my physical life you saved and you brought it up out of the grave. You gave me life so that I wouldn't go down into the pit. It's the emphasis on nefesh there is also that the spiritual ailment. He recognized that the spiritual ailment was what had really caused him his suffering. So, as is typical with David HaMelech, when he is awakened to sing his Hashem's praises, and when he is, when he is aroused, he feels this. He's so to call out HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He also invokes that everyone else should be involved in this. He wants everybody else to be activated to do this kind of tefillah, which is, of course, that's something that it's an idea that comes again and again throughout the words of David HaMelech, that it's not enough for him to praise HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's not enough for him to pray to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but he always wants to share that with the Jewish people, to come along with him and be inspired with him. Hashem's anger, it's only for a moment. It's an instant. But life is what he desires. Now, Chaim B'Tzono can also be read to mean Chaim B'Tzono. If Hashem wants it, a person will live, right? Chaim B'Tzono, like our lives are in his, at the mercy of his will, so to speak. But at the same time, Chaim B'Tzono has a double meaning. It means, what does Hashem really want? He wants us to suffer. He wants us to die, Chalila? No, he wants Chaim. He wants us to live. He wants us to enjoy our lives. He wants us to kilo yachpotz b'mos hameis. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't have any desire whatsoever for people to suffer. He only wants us to go through the process, if we have to go through whatever process of teshuvah and cleansing that we have to do in order to be able to enjoy life in this world, life in the next world. Ba'erev yalim bechi v'lebokher hina. You go to sleep crying, but you wake up in the morning and you're celebrating. That is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants for us. Vani Almighty b'shalvi. David HaMelech admits now that it's a public, it's an expression publicly of his tshuva. Vani Almighty b'shalvi b'alemot li'olam. David HaMelech said, when I was considering only, like the Malbim says, I was considering my physical health, my strength. I thought, b'shalvi, in my serenity, in my, my feeling everything, all is right with the world. How on earth could I ever falter? Why would I get sick? Because I'm powerful and I'm strong and I'm healthy and I'm well. It's a very interesting phrase. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in your will, you caused hari oz, my mountain of strength, to stand up. That means to say, I thought that Mamela, I'm a healthy person, I'm strong, so I'll be strong forever. No, I realized through my illness, after my illness, that it's not me, it's not stam, it's not Mamela that a person is healthy and well. It's all along you were empowering me. All along you were strengthening me. He started panecha. You hid your face away from me. The instant you took away your hashgacha, keeping me vital, keeping me healthy, immediately I was in a state of confusion. I'm only crying out to you, and it's only to you that I pour out my beseeching. That's now that I have the recognition that there's nothing stam, ain't stamiyut. No one's just healthy, and no one's just well, and no one's just anything. It's only at HaKadosh Baruch Hu's. Through the extension of his loving hashgacha. What good do you get out of me being silent? Dom is in the language of silence, right? That I should be brought to silence, that I should be dead and not have anything to say any longer. The angel who's in charge of the world of the dead, we call this angel Duma. Yordei Duma. That's what it says in the Gemara. That malach is called Duma because it's a state of coming to, if being a human being alive in this world is being a medaber, is having the capacity for conscious communication, right? We say a human being, what is Adam Harishon? Is he has a ruach mamalale, he has a speaking spirit within him. He can communicate spirituality through the articulation of speech. And so we say, what's the opposite of that? Death means ultimately silence, of being brought to a state of not being able to express the spiritual consciousness anymore. So David HaMelech says, Hashem, what do you get out of silencing me, sending me down to the grave? Can the dust praise you? Can it acknowledge you? Can it speak your truth? Shema Hashem v'chaneni, Hashem ozeli. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, hear me. Shine your face to me. That chaneni is to give me a gift that I don't deserve. Chaneni is mishon chinam. Comes from the language of chinam, to have a gift that comes from the otzar matnat chinam, to receive something, a gift that you don't deserve. We call this the otzar matnat chinam is a concept that's brought in the Midrash and Haggadah, and it means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu extends gifts to those who don't deserve. And in the end, we much prefer to get gifts from the otzar matnat chinam. You know, sometimes you say a person has a merit, he's got some kind of points in his favor or something like that. But the truth is that the treasury of unearned gifts, the otzar matnat chinam, is endless. You know, so it's when we say Shema Hashem v'choneni, it's not just have compassion on me. It means send me a gift from the otzar matnat chinam. I don't deserve anything. I'm not worthy of anything. I don't have any points. I don't have any merit stacked up. Hashem hegei ozeli. Hashem, come to my aid. Hafachta mispedi l'macholi. Of course, that macholi has a double meaning too. You've turned over my hisped, my mourning, into machol. Machol means dancing, but machol has the double meaning also of mechila. You know, that you've forgiven me. And so why can I dance now? And why am I able to praise you now? Because you've forgiven me, and that's how I've gotten better. Pitachta saki, you took off my sackcloth, you broke me out of it. It's like this, the language of, it doesn't say, you know, horadeta mimeni et saki. It doesn't say you took off my sackcloth. It says pitachta saki. It's like as if I was entombed in sackcloth, and you burst me out of it. And you girded me with joy. Leman, but for what? Why do we want to live? Why do we want to be well? What do we need good health for? What do we need strength for? Leman yizamecha chavod v'lo yidom. In order that we should be able to sing your praises and never be quiet. Of course, that's a repeat of the mabeta bedomi, right? Dom. Now we say lo yidom, right? To never be quiet. Hashem Elokai liolam odecha. Hashem, you are my God, and I will thank you and acknowledge you forever. Okay, and I think it's 20 minutes on the dot.
Wow, I have to tell you, I'm so taken by what you shared. I said earlier, right when we get on, I said, always, sometimes the chapter chooses you just as you choose a chapter, but what you shared spoke to me in such a deep way. And I saw some comments from people that said the same thing. And I'm going to share something. I'm going to share something small. I mean, it's personal, it just happened to me. But I went through a little bit of a rough weekend. I'm 40 years old. I'm not married yet. Bezrat Hashem, I know Hashem hasn't forgotten me. I know He hasn't forgotten anybody. And I was, sometimes getting your hopes up or thinking, oh, something is about to happen, and then it doesn't, and then it's supposed to about to happen again. And I said, I totally got crushed over this weekend, and I just felt Hashem. And I went to the kotel and I said, Hashem, I don't know what you want I don't know what you want me to do. And I started crying, and I said, imagine 22 years since I'm 18. Okay. Marriage is always a very big thing, having a family, bringing a legacy into the world, having a child, such a tremendous thing. I said, imagine trying to do something, accomplish something for 22 years and not succeeding at accomplishing it. I said, what am I supposed to do? I really felt destroyed. And a friend of mine yesterday, she said to me, and I told her, I was crying at the kotel. She goes, you got there. You got to that low point. Because it says in the tefillah and Amidah, it says, memit umechayeh. It says, Hashem, memit umechayeh. That sometimes, just like you said, sometimes when we are and it's one of the things I say all the time, when we're at our lowest, we're actually at our highest potential. It's not because Hashem wants to hurt us. It's not because He wants us to suffer. It's because He wants us to find strength within ourselves that we would never have been able to tap into unless we got to that specific place. And what you shared, honestly, really brought me a tremendous amount of chizuk. I know that there's going to be the mechayeh. I know it. I already know it. Even in this low place. That's why, it's also gam ki elech begetz hamavet lo yirada ki etamadi, that even when we're at the lowest specific point, that we feel like we're in the valley of the shadow of death, lo yirada ki etamadi, we realize, we think we're alone. We think there's nothing there. We're alone in a place, and then we realize ki etamadi. But hey, hold on a second. Maybe I have nothing here, but etamadi, Hashem, you're with me, and if you're with me, the sky is the limit. There's only one way to go, and that's up. So I just want to thank you personally, because you really, I needed this chizuk. Hashem knew it, and I appreciate you sharing such beautiful words.
B'simcha rabba. Just as a side point on Atay Imadi. Imadi is spelled Ayin Mem Dalid Yud, and it can be read Omdi. Omdi means my stature, what stands me up. So it implies that Kadosh Baruch Hu is with me, but also that He raises me up.
Raises me.
Ata Omdi.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much, Rebbetzin. I'm so grateful for your words. V'ezrat Hashem, you should continue to use those words, not to be yidom, not to be silent, to continue to use them and to really bring chizuk to all of Am Yisrael. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much for inviting me to participate. I'm so happy that I could.
Thank you. Thank you.